Hello, everyone, and welcome to another small screen Star Wars. As always, I'm Julian. Nah, I completely stumbled over my own
Julian
name.
Muse.
Yeah, I'm Jolie. That's my Star Wars
Jolene.
name. My name is Julian Mush. I am joined by not Rachel Wilkinson today. She's actually at Star Wars Celebration. I'm joined by Jeremy Cozier.
This is where the fun begins.
Yes, Jeremy. Thank you. All I've ever wanted for you is for you to do something like that on the podcast. I'm so excited. Thank you. And the fun really is beginning now.
Rachel is there. Was she like in
She's
those
in the
panels?
room. Yes, she's
She was
at
in the
Star Wars
crowd when
Celebration.
you and Hayden were there.
She just sent me a snap. She was 30 feet away from Ewan McGregor as he was telling some sort of story. I don't know. Maybe it was photoshopped. I don't know. But
That's
I do
crazy.
know she's at Star Wars Celebration. So there's gonna be she's already texted me. She's like, Julian, I have so much to talk about on the show. So something to look forward to there, I would say, loyal listener. I am stoked to hear what she has to say. I've been following, obviously, what's going on in Star Wars Celebration pretty closely. We got news about a new show. Jeremy, Jude Law is joining Star Wars. Is
What's
that not
this show called?
Skeleton Crew? We don't know
Oh,
anything else
right.
about it.
Well, I
And
heard Tales of the Jedi was like a
yes,
cool thing because
right,
is that Qui-Gon Jinn is back in some
dude,
capacity?
it's gonna be
Crazy.
the coolest shit. So it's animated. So it's from Dave Filoni.
Right.
But I don't know, Jeremy, if you've seen any of the new animated stuff since the relatively new stuff, Bad Batch,
No,
or the
but
last season.
No, but I mean, obviously, a lot of keen Star Wars fans are into it, so it's clearly something of note. And to these creators, they're involved with everything. So, and that timeline is kind of being explored. So it's
Well, it's
definitely cool that it's all commingling to a certain degree.
it's an anthology. It looks like it's gonna be an anthology series, and it's gonna just kind of highlight cool Jedi stuff from the prequel era and earlier, which is I think awesome. So I'm fine with that. But what is so cool about it is that yeah, it's animated, but again, for those who might not have seen Bad Batch, which has an amazing first season opener, like it's basically like a little mini movie, 90 minutes of I think the first episode and the second together make for like this really perfect little combined thing, and it's just the best looking. I don't know of much better, like Pixar's. They spend a lot of money on their animation and it's a very different style, but what Lucasfilm Animation can do is just so stunningly good looking, especially on a 4K TV. Like with HDR, 4K, it's just next level gorgeous. The textures, it's like it's not going for realism necessarily. It's this like stylized realism, and it's just so cool. I can't wait to see more. I'm stoked. But again, we're not here to talk about that now. For those who have been listening to Small Screen Star Wars for some time, you'll know that we like to take all of these Star Wars shows, which is really where Star Wars lives right now. So I feel like I was a little ahead of the curve in naming it the show Small Screen Star Wars.
What was that? There's that magazine cover that like their headline was the rebellion is happening on TV
Yeah,
or something like
the
that.
rebellion will be televised.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And like that Vanity Fair, I think, is that, and I haven't read that whole thing yet, but I hear it's really good. We like to review these week to week and do like a scene by scene breakdown, similar to what we used to do for Game of Thrones back in the day. For those who've been listening for a really long time, but I haven't had a chance to rewatch it. Which it's Jeremy. This is so insane to me. Okay, so let me just quickly finish this thought. We're not going to be doing a scene by scene breakdown today. I'm going to try to convince Rachel when she gets back to do all the episodes that she would have missed and do them all together in a big episode where we talk about everything. But we'll figure that out. But for now, we're going to talk about just these first two premiere episodes. Just overall impressions. We'll talk about favorite moments and kind of what's working and maybe what's not and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be more general. But what's even crazier about this is that, okay, we're recording this on Saturday. It technically premiered Thursday night. So there's this, I don't know if you remember this, Jeremy. It was originally supposed to premiere on Wednesday, right? Like
I
that.
don't remember because just for the record, I don't care about any of the premiere like dates and stuff. I know a lot of people have been complaining about it and stuff, and like I guess it
Yes.
like sucks for people who do like live
Yes.
viewings or whatever, or, like just their job to cover it and all that stuff.
I
But
don't care about that either.
that's
Yeah.
I don't know. I just it is
That
what it
doesn't
is.
matter. Like, listen, if your job is to do live reactions to Star Wars, like you are living the dream. I don't have any like. Congrats, you've made it. I don't care if you're slightly upset about when these shows come out. I have opinions on it. If you're gonna premiere it at a specific time, it's right now. Typically, the shows premiere midnight Pacific time, which is really late for us here in the Central, but even later if you're on the Eastern time or anywhere else. Sometimes other places in the world, it's just not great in terms of premiere time. I wish you could premiere it because, like, here's what happens: it premieres midnight on Thursday or whatever, and then by Friday, if you're on social media, there's already spoilers, like by the morning. And it's like, that's so fucking, like, I got spoiled on stuff from Mando season 2 and stuff like that. And it's like, that really is annoying. So what they did here is originally it was set to premiere on the Wednesday, which is also the anniversary of the premiere of episode 4. So it had some kind of, it had a little bit of synergy there. And then they announced later, oh, actually, we're going to bump it to Friday. We're going to bump it back 3 days. But don't worry, we're going to premiere the first 2 episodes at the same time as a kind of like a mea culpa, right? And then, because of, I guess, how all this stuff played out because of Star Wars Celebration, I have to admit, I have to believe that this was all pre-planned. That they moved it from Wednesday so they could move to Friday so that they could ultimately move it back to Thursday. Because that's what happened. They were like, hey, surprise, it's coming early, 9 p.m. Pacific time.
But isn't that because of like the promotion that's happening right now, like with Star Wars Celebration and all that stuff?
I think it's part of that is just that so many people would have seen the premiere episode at Celebration on Thursday and like the most important Star Wars people,
Yeah, well, and if you're on YouTube and stuff, you're seeing all that content of
right.
Ewan and Hayden
Exactly.
talking about it, hyping it up, seeing visuals of it, then just, release it right then.
It just avoids the spoiler problem. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it, but it is kind of a funny thing. Like, okay, it's gonna be Wednesday. No, it's Friday, but now it's actually Thursday. I don't know how that all comes together or how that's planned. It's just very. I saw that on my phone. I had to like Google around to make sure it was real. Like I wasn't sure it was real, and I was like, I had come back from hockey. I was just ready to settle in and maybe watch, I don't know, some random bullshit on Netflix or something. And then I saw this, and I'm like, cancel all plans.
Did you watch them both back to back though?
100%, Jeremy. As loud as I possibly could turn up the television. Like my stereos, apologies to my neighbor because it was late when it was pretty loud at that point, but it had to be done. And I popped some popcorn. All the lights were off. I was just like getting as soon as the little Lucasfilm. Oh, Jeremy, we've been talking about this.
Chris Pratt Star.
Yes, I do. That's funny, and like. So that's what it felt like, and I was so stoked. And then the Lucasfilm little, like, how it does the little sparkle thing, and I was like,
shoving your mouth with popcorn. I can just picture it now.
Yes, and I'm like, yes, bring it on.
Audibly saying things that no one's listening to.
My girlfriend's rolling her eyes. But so the first thing I noticed, Jeremy, is that the Lucasfilm logo, which is always green. Always green. It's not green. It's gold/sand colored, right?
Is it always green? I thought like it's always green.
It's
like,
always green.
Now.
It's always as far as I know, and I don't know.
I thought they played with it a little bit recently, but I don't know.
Maybe recently. I don't. It doesn't. It to me it felt novel. So I could be wrong. I'm willing to admit that, but it seemed like I was surprised that they went with this change in color because it's a big deal. So
it's a huge deal, guys.
It's a big deal. You know what the funniest thing in that vein is, Jeremy? Someone said, and I was like, you might have saw the tweet about it, but someone posted that like the star field. So they have like the field of stars and the credits, the end credits to episode 1 of Obi-Wan is the same starfield of Revenge of the Sith, and I was like, first of all, how could anyone possibly know that? And second of all, who gives a shit? I'm like, I'm all for like cool, fun nods, but that could not possibly matter, at all.
Oh, you're saying that like the editors just looked for stock, like
what starfield can we grab?
Of Star,
yeah.
And so you're thinking that the specific one does not matter in this scenario.
I think it's specifically they're specifically using a modern one.
There's no meaning here.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, there's no meaning tying it to Revenge of the Sith.
I mean, maybe. I'm not saying that's not.
Yeah, why not? Because isn't that like right where they came from?
You're right, Jeremy. In that there could be a tie-in there.
That's why fans are pointing it out. Is what I would.
You're right, but again, we're talking about.
You have to wait till the
fucking
next
stars.
Wait, what about the second episode?
I think it's both. Okay. But I don't know for sure. So don't quote me on that. Maybe they used a different one just to throw people off the scent. Okay, so. There's two. We did. It's 2 premiere episodes. It really feels like a movie. In the kind of when you watch them back to back. Did you watch them back to back?
100%.
Yeah, 100%. Like I like. Let me just put this. Let me just. I'm stumbling.
It's just funny because I
words.
know like where your mind is at. Like it's kind of unbelievable to just you can finally like sit down. And just sink
Jeremy.
into this world that was so just huge in your early life,
and it's only gotten bigger.
That was tied to this legacy of these 3 Star Wars films.
Yes,
this is like the newer legacy.
Yes,
but then that legacy was shit on a little bit. But then they had really good parts to it, and really good actors to it. And then all these things are getting second chances, and with Disney and all the shows, and then Ewan's back, Hayden's back.
Lessons are being learned. Not always the right one.
Is playing.
Yes.
He's talking about Qui-Gon Jinn in the first episode after a dream.
Jeremy.
Like, Jeremy. What is going on right
Jeremy,
now?
I'm putting money on right now. By the way, full spoilers for this starting now. I'm putting money on this right fucking now. Qui-Gon Jinn will make an appearance as a Force ghost in this show. 100%. 100% appears as a Force ghost.
Applied there. And I don't want to. It's not all about like appearances, right? Like
no. It's not.
It sounds like you're coming across a little bit like that, but I want to come to your defense a little bit.
I appreciate that.
That's like the popular thing right now is like, oh, who's gonna appear and like all that stuff, right? Like a lot of people tweeting things out like that.
Ice-T, I think. Have you seen those Ice-T memes?
But that's just. But what we're talking about is just to really complete, that package of what that early trilogy was, and the characters that are back, they're closely tied to certain characters, and when it comes to Jedi's and your Padawan and all that stuff, Qui-Gon is right there, specifically because he chose or found Anakin.
Yes.
You know what I mean, essentially.
Yeah.
And so it's all just we need to kind of revisit some of that and see what he has to say now in this new world where now he's protecting Leia as well. What the hell?
Jeremy.
Oh my goodness.
Jeremy, you are hitting the nail on the head here. Like just absolutely nailing it because you're right. It is not about, and you're not to ignore the Leia thing, but we'll get there. It's about character, right? We talked about this. We just reviewed Top Gun Maverick, and I've been feeling about this more and more every time we watch something that really works for me. And spoilers, this totally fucking worked for me. Is that it's about character and what's important. What is Obi-Wan's legacy? It's failure. He's constantly haunted by failure, right? Not being able to save Qui-Gon, not being able to save Anakin.
The Ewan McGregor legacy.
Well, yes,
to a certain degree, right? Because the Alec Guinness was, is almost a legacy of hope, essentially, which is what
that's true.
Ewan's Obi-Wan is transitioning to, and with this Leia shit, really hones back to that.
Yes,
which is just unbelievable. I just did not expect that at all.
No, and like so, I don't know why you keep saying like that. I love it, and so there was I don't know if I just saw a headline. It might have been the Slash Film review. It just said, all it said was Obi-Wan justifies its existence as and it's like it's absolutely right, because we talked about this at the very beginning, like before the show was announced, when we were talking about how could we revisit this. It was, well, he's supposed to be just sitting in the desert the whole time. How does that work? Like what motivates him to do something more than just that? And this show says, well, it's obvious, you fucking idiots. Leia's in trouble. Mm-hmm. And it's so fucking brilliant. It's like slap in your face.
It's so cool because we finally get to see that the difference in lifestyle,
yes.
like from Luke and Leia.
Yes.
And like they're supposed to be both hidden, but realistically, Leia's not hidden at all.
Yes.
Because she's just part of this prominent family. Yep. So that's super fascinating seeing that play out. And then the actress who plays the young Leia is
so good. So good.
Every line basically hits. I'm laughing. I couldn't believe just how they were able to showcase a young Leia, or you know what I mean, like even the actor who embodied Leia.
Yes.
So it's Carrie Fisher.
Yes.
So I was like, man, this is spot on. And then just seeing Ewan, you know, like in those scenes where they are together, like I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but
yes,
I just love seeing him with the hood on, and like it's just like he like kind of, because these 2 episodes he's just adamant he's not the Jedi. You have to really just kind of
yes
about that. And it's kind of teasing us like, oh, he's got to bring it out here. He's gonna use that lightsaber. Here it comes. Yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? And then it teases and teases and teases it, even through fights, and he's punching, he's getting punched, he's getting hurt, he's getting wounded. But when it comes to Leia, she's about to die, and he finally it hurts him, but he's able to summon what that was like and use the Force.
Yes, Jeremy. This show, I remember. I think we talked about this on the podcast, but I know we for sure talked about it just chatting. We were like, what could this show be? Like, I think there was one of those moments where like, well, what if it sucks, right? We had that. What's that movie, Jeremy, with episode 1, Fanboys, I think, right?
Fanboys, brilliant.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, I had that movie. Like, I had that moment, right? You know, before we went in and we were thinking about it, it's like, well, what if it sucks?
And we think about the timeline too, in terms of like what Alec Guinness looked like.
Yes.
Like it just doesn't make any sense.
Eternal youth of.
But then when we were just talking about the Leia dynamic, the young Leia, like she jokes about him just looking old all the time, which I think is hilarious.
Yes, because he doesn't look old at all.
but they
like,
have to get him to that place because he will be.
They make his beard a bit scruffier and his hair's not quite as coiffed as it normally is, but he looks very cool. Like, I don't think anyone could be like Obi-Wan Kenobi. You know, like, he's the coolest character. He's like basically the coolest character in Star Wars, like right up there for sure.
But he hasn't necessarily done anything cool, like
in a long time.
Of this the beginnings of the Ben character that he's.
Yes, you're right.
And until he's thrust into the mission, and then when Leia's what's his name, Leia's adoptive father, whatever.
Jimmy Smits.
The actor, Bail Organa. That's so crazy.
Jeremy, I love Jimmy Smits. I can't understand it. I don't fully grasp it because he had such a minor role
in the prequels.
Yes, but he was so cool. He's so effortlessly cool, man.
Yeah, and then here they show his love and his ability to want to protect. And as far as to reach out to Obi-Wan, like that cave scene where they're talking to one another.
You know what, Jeremy, what I love about this is that, like, you know, this is so fucking brilliant. It might not land, right, in the way that we hope, but just what they've done so far in terms of, like, weaving the things in. Of course it's Leia. Like, duh, right? So fucking stupid. We couldn't think that. Mm-hmm. And then there's that, what's the very first, like, one of the most iconic lines from Star Wars of all time? Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope, right? Because why the fuck would she know anything about Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Now we're learning this.
Yes, right. It's like, it's so fucking brilliant.
And they get to go on an adventure together.
Yes, together, and she doubts him. She doesn't believe in him. Doesn't believe that he even is a Jedi. And then he has to. He doesn't want to show it because it puts them in danger. But he has to save her life. Like, that is just listen. There's some cliche in there too, but it's it's really top tier Star Wars stuff. Like it doesn't get much bigger than
And
this.
Joel Edgerton is back as Owen.
Yeah, right. Which is such a funny coincidence because he just had like he was not a name, right?
Yeah, it was just huge startup.
But his performance, like even Joel Edgerton's performance, like minor role, so good,
Yeah.
right? They're dynamic about them.
What's best for Luke, essentially, is their dynamic, which we never really saw play out. And we can kind of see Owen's point of view here because it's like because the whole episode revolves around. Okay, you think you can just hide out and nothing's gonna happen? No, you're dumb for thinking that.
How cool is it that they're like, we're gonna introduce the Inquisitors right away, right? Which is a concept from the cartoons that I think can be silly.
It's definitely the
not done
weakest
right.
part of, like, because it feels like it could be like, this whole thing. It is epic to a certain degree, especially people like us, I think.
Yeah.
But like that stuff there can kind of maybe slow it down or treat it like a typical TV show.
Yeah.
We're living and breathing with those characters, which is it's fine, but like maybe not as necessary. And like they die, like I guess one of them they die right away, right?
Well, yeah. So what I love, again, brilliant stuff because there is all this hubbub about the fact that there was that too. There was that's funny.
But the Grand Inquisitors.
Yes.
Head.
Well, the head specifically.
Friend.
Yeah, so Rupert Friend plays the Grand Inquisitor, and Rupert Friend in an interview recently
with a bald head.
He's an expert at bald heads, but his shape of his head was a criticism. But even more recently, he came in an interview and he said,
"Like his actual shape of his head is a criticism."
No. The shape of the Grand Inquisitor's head specifically, the character, not the actor. Rupert Friend has a finely shaped head. You can't be a bald assassin, the bald assassin, without having a normally shaped head.
They filmed him from the side though a lot, and I feel like the head, the shape of the head from the profile
looks silly.
Did
not
look
great
well either.
Yeah, he looked really cool from behind.
Yeah.
I think
or head on.
Yes.
But the issue was that from the Rebels show, it was more.
Well, it was a different species. It was a different species, right? So, here's the thing, Jeremy. He said he didn't. Rupert Friend said he said, "Listen, I didn't watch any of Rebels." He said, "I didn't watch any of Rebels to prepare for this role," right? And people were like, "That is fucking bullshit." They're like, "What the fuck do you mean you didn't watch it? You're supposed to be the same character." What? Right? This is what people are saying. I even thought that. And then they kill him in the second episode, right? And you're like,
wrong.
I'm like, holy shit, he's not the same Grand Inquisitor. It's a different fucking character that goes and
really?
It's a different character because
it looks exactly the same.
Well, they get painted. I guess they get painted with the same fucking marks. It's like their.
But aren't they both aren't they both the Grand Inquisitor?
Yes. Well, I mean, presumably, it's like a title. So the next Grand Inquisitor could be someone else.
There's like the brother and the sister, like the number.
Right. Exactly. So you have the seventh brother and the fourth sister and all that kind of stuff.
He's the same species as the one from Rebels, but he's not.
No, he's not. This one appears to be he seems to be human or something similar to human, but is not the same. It's not the same character, which is why it's cool.
Really?
Why it works. It's not the same character because the Grand Inquisitor that we see in Rebels, takes place in the future. It's not. That's further along in the timeline. So there'll be another Grand Inquisitor that takes his place. Yeah.
That's it.
And what's also brilliant about this, there's so many brilliant things. I keep saying you could take a shot for every time you hear me say the word brilliant. The other thing that's brilliant about that move to kill the Grand Inquisitor here is that it opens the door wide open for Vader to be more involved, which is you needed some excuse, you needed some reason to get Vader involved, right? So.
And it's just so cliche amongst the Siths, just like take each other out. Like
yes, they
that's
like.
That's why the sister one is the more interesting one because she kind of does all the hard work. And that sequence where she's like scouting to see where the fight is happening, so where Leia and Ben are, is so cool. And she just does force parkour, Star Wars parkour, which I thought was kind of cool.
Like
just
I think
to her level.
what's cool about that is, Jeremy, is like that could be so fucking stupid to watch. It could look so lame, but it doesn't. It actually does look really cool. There's a couple things that are lame. He does like this like one spin move thing that's kind of it's got a little bit lame.
Yeah, but I just like it because it's very Sith. It's like, of course she's gonna like kind of theatrically like get over there, and like she can't wait. Because that's what the dark side of the Force kind of does
right
to you. So
what I love, Jeremy, you're touching on this, and I don't even know if you're aware of this right now, but the Inquisitor program, you know the rule of two, only two there are, right?
of course.
The Inquisitor program, the Emperor had a big problem with it because he believed that it was breaking the rule of two because you're training these Jedi that have turned bad in the ways of the Sith, right? And that it compromises that relationship, you know. But I don't know if they'll explore that in the show. I don't even know if we'll get the Emperor. Although now that I think about it, give me some Ian McDermott. Get him in here too. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
How the Order 66 in the beginning, such a cool
Jeremy
thing to give fans too, because the whole prequel, trilogy, really revolves around that historic moment that's within the Clone Wars.
Yes.
And we get to see that sequence play out. Just a reminder
again.
And seeing a Jedi like protecting the younglings is just so cool to see it play. Like, it was just awesome to see. It's a tease of the action we'll be getting in later episodes, I'd imagine.
It's clear that they're not going to shy away from doing cool prequel style lightsaber stuff, right?
No. And they did so much work for the Revenge of the Sith special.
They were so sweaty in those specials. It was so funny.
There's so much behind the scenes of them practicing. Like, that like I was telling Taryn, like when that stuff influenced me or us, like when we made like our high school movies.
Yes,
like, we literally had sequences. We had a stick fight. In the vein of the Revenge of the Sith.
Yes,
like,
where they even do the dumb thing behind the back where they like doesn't make sense that they would do that.
Thing, and that's not the Revenge though. That is from Phantom Menace.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
I put which I put on right after these.
Jeremy, you're like Julian. You're like, sorry, just let me correct you. That's not dumb. It's cool. It's like you should be
amazing. It's an amazing sequence. But again, it recommended to put episode 1 on right away, and I pressed play to that to see.
And you're like, yes, please. With that. Yeah. Did you like the little like recap they did of Obi-Wan before the show started with all this
unbelievable recap?
Yeah, so cool, right?
Unbelievable. I want to just go watch that again. Like, that is what we're talking about, the original trilogy. We're talking about. What was it? Topher Grace?
Yes, recutting it. Yeah,
recut it. That was like I was reminded of that idea that is out there that we'll never see.
But we can't see it.
The editing and the recap on the Disney Plus, like just going into this show, I just thought was incredible. It was just none of the bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, let's just show you where all these characters were at and where they are now, where they could be. And then just so don't forget, like the very last shot of the second episode, I thought was so impactful and
fucking
just so
awesome.
Just so hype-level. Like, I saw Darth Vader in a new but like familiar, like scary way again. I was like, holy shit!
You're like
it just looked vicious.
What's amazing about it, Jeremy, and not to interrupt you because I agree with you about the visuals of it. It's so cool looking, but what's amazing about it, what makes it work so well, is that his presence is felt throughout the first 2 episodes because of his absence. You feel well, actually we don't feel it, they talk about it. Obi-Wan talks with Jimmy Smits, Bail Organa, about how he's like, it's not your fault that you couldn't save. They all think he's dead, right? This is something that he's like living with. He just believes that Anakin's dead, right?
Yeah.
And then meanwhile you have this Inquisitor who's like obsessed with the idea of finding Obi-Wan, which is so cool in and of itself. And then you realize at the end of the second episode that she's like, and when she reveals it to him, the way that his face is just completely changes. By the way, Ewan McGregor is doing the yeoman's work here. It's just so he's so good.
He's living his best life right now.
They're just like she's like she talks about Vader and like knowing that she's gonna want to know that you're alive and they're gonna hunt you down, but it's just this dichotomy between the way that she feels about that information, right? You should know that he's alive and he wants you dead, right? That's basically what she's trying to convey to him there, right? It is odd that she knows all this detail about how they were like best buddies and he was Anakin Skywalker. I don't know how that works necessarily, but interesting, right? We'll explore it. But then to him, that same news, that same thing that she's trying to use to like embody fear in him is this like this weight lifted off his shoulders, right? You know, we get that scene in the recap where she said like with Padme, like her last words are, you know, they're still good in him, right?
Yeah, and so that's obviously going to be in his thoughts now.
Yes,
dealing with Darth Vader.
Yes,
which is cool.
So, it sets the stage for like, you know, one obviously amazing rematch, right? Of course, right? But you know, when I left you, I was but the learner, right? And now I am the man. Like, so that stuff it still works for me, like in terms of like the continuity of it. I'm not worried about that at all. I just love that Vader. We're gonna get to see Vader, and I think the same way that he was in Rogue One, this like really powerful, scary presence, but for a much just like more of it, a bigger but also emotionally driven, right? From a character perspective. They were, you know, you were my brother, Anakin, right? That's the line. And they're now get to explore what that means that he's now become Darth Vader. It's so
do you
juicy.
See, will we see like Hayden's face more like at all?
I think we've already seen more of his face than I expected to see, right?
Right.
We see his face kind of in the back to tank, right? And his rage and anger. We are going to see it. And I don't, you know, there was flashbacks, right? You mentioned flashbacks in the Maverick review. And there was flashbacks in this, and they flashback to
when he was dreaming.
Yeah, to the prequels.
Yeah.
And I think it's very visually effective.
We're just loving that too, right? Like, because it was for a long time, would they ever acknowledge the prequels? Right. This is like cementing all that. Like, why do we think that way when it's like this is full on prequel territory?
It's
here,
prequel. It's prequel love, dude. It's all those things, but told with a much more mature brush. I think is ultimately what's happening here. So like, to circle back to so let's talk about the flashbacks and whether we're going to see more of Hayden's face. We know Hayden's going to be in Ahsoka. In some form or fashion,
nice. Well,
probably in flashback form, potentially, or in maybe Force Ghost form. But what's interesting here is that there's very strong potential that we'll get flashbacks to moments from the animated series of the Clone Wars, but redone live action, right? And which might actually bring Ahsoka. They actually might bring a live action Ahsoka, the Clone Wars version, into that timeline, right, to tie it all together via flashback to that. And I think that's very bold. It's compelling, certainly. We already saw Tamora Morrison as a clone here, right? How cool was that, by the way? This like
a little unrecognizable though,
which I think is good, right? I think you want that because he's supposed to be.
It was the guy from Game of Thrones.
That's funny.
The guy with one hand.
Yeah, he kind of has the same beard from that moment, that's a good point. Yeah. But like and Tamura said like now that he's fully back in Star Wars, he's like, I want to do more Boba Fett. He's like, I will do any clone that they ask me to do. He's like, I will do any clone.
I want more paychecks.
I get the impression that he's like he actually he really truly enjoys and likes being a part of Star Wars again. I think anyone who is in the prequels
100%.
is like
it's so
now back in it.
They would rely on him this much.
I love it. So I'm a little biased. I'm a big Tamora Morrison stan. Like, absolutely can't get enough. So I love that he made an appearance here.
We're not getting another. We won't be getting another sequel to his season 2 of the show.
I think we'll get more Boba Fett. Yeah, I think we'll get a book of Boba Fett season 2. I think at some point. I don't want of course, obviously. Boba Fett, he's awesome.
Take turns, right? It's like Mandalorian next.
Well, the thing with the book of Boba Fett was that it was a lot like Mandalorian season 2.5, especially near the end, which I think actually hurt the show. I think it made it feel less important. It made Boba Fett feel less important. I think they recognize that, and they're going to try to reclaim that in some way to tell his own stories or however they want to do it. Yes, we'll get more Boba Fett. What's cool here? Sorry, go ahead.
It was like a too soon type of moment.
Well, no, it was like, no, it's not too soon. Bring Boba Fett back. It's really cool, but you don't need to bring. There's a whole episode, Jeremy. I don't know. Have you seen the book of Boba Fett season 2 or season 1?
I tuned out when Mandalorian kind of showed up.
Yeah, there's a whole episode. There's two whole episodes without Boba Fett, the titular character, being in his own show, and to me, that's a crime. It's not. This is the main character. I understand there's a big wide galaxy. We want to do that stuff, but save it for Mando season 2, 3. You know what I mean? So that bothered me. But what I love here is that Temuera's playing a clone, but he's playing a 501st clone, which is because he's got the blue. I love that they're gonna and live action armor, which I think is the first time. I don't know if you know this, Jeremy, but the clones are all CG, obviously in the prequels. There was no.
I watched an interview with Ewan where he said they were all. It's super cool to see the clone troopers. He's happy. He's finally. He's never had a scene with them essentially.
Yeah.
Because they were CG.
And it's there's a shot actually in. Do you see the new trailer for Andor?
I have not.
Oh, Jeremy, you got to first of all, you got to watch that because it's cemented for me what we've been thinking about now for a little while, which is that it's secretly going to be an amazing show because it looks like the most badass spy show. Star Wars themed spy. It's what they promised, and it looks so stylish. It looks so good. I really feel like they're coming into their own with understanding how to make these shows feel more like the movies because they weren't for a little while.
That one is important too because it's kind of like the Rogue One 2.0, which is. Rogue One has that place in Star Wars history where it's kind of this underrated gem.
A lot of reasons too.
It has those moments. Yeah.
One of the reasons, which I love, which I didn't actually think about at the time, but there's these Star Wars YouTubers that I like to watch, and one of them is he's like, one of the amazing things about Rogue One is that it introduces new ships and Imperial designs that just fit right into the world that we already like. They introduced the U-wing, for instance, right? And it's that's such a cool ship. And it just feels like it fits right into the Star Wars lore, right? Right in with that the episode, the original trilogy stuff. And they did that. And they did the tie. There's a new tie. There's the shield gate. All these things that feel familiar but also are new. Rogue One does that. So this is kind of a lot of that same stuff too. We'll see if it's able to do that. But it's set in this really interesting time period. It has clone troopers. There's a shot in the Andor trailer that has regular ass clone version, clone armor 2.0. It's unclear whether or not they're CGI or live action. We had clone troopers in this episode in the premiere episode, right? That Order 66 moment, right? We don't get to see them up close, so it's also possible that they're also CG. But for sure, 100%, Temuera Morrison was in live action clone armor when he was sitting down on that bench. So I would not be surprised if we don't get to see more, which, although sounds dumb, is exciting to me. So coming back to one thing I didn't get to finish my thought from before, which was we were talking about, we were discussing whether or not how the show would be, what it would be like, and whether or not it'd be good. We talked about ideas well, what if it's just a series of flashbacks as he's kind of living his life in the desert and him exploring kind of his past and trying to come to grips with his failures and all that kind of stuff. Now, and to some degree, that is what this show is a little bit, right? It is him coming to grips with his failures, but it's more than that. And we talked about it. I was like, I think one point I was like, Jeremy, like, what if this is just like a really just a drama? You know, it's just Obi-Wan talking to people, close-up shots. It's about the emotions of it. It's grappling with, again, that element of failure, and it's just exploring that. And I was like, I think at the time we were like, there's no way they're gonna just make it that quote unquote boring. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and it's like they do, but it's not boring. Which because
it's for a reason too.
Yes.
It's like you see it right away when Obi-Wan's working at that meat factory or whatever.
Yes.
And the first time, and like you see the guy in front of him get paid like half, and he's got a family. And we heard the Grand Inquisitor talk about how, you know, Jedi just, they want to help and spread hope and compassion and all this
cool
stuff.
speech though, by
And
the way.
then it was a little drawn out. And then in that moment, it's like I was expecting him to do the hand wave, right? And he could use the Force and get this man to pay him fairly, but he doesn't. And then it doubles down later when that
it keeps going,
Nori,
it keeps happening.
Jedi, who we think the Inquisitors are after, but, you know, lo and behold, they were just using him to find
Well, actually, no.
Obi-Wan.
So here's the thing. What I love, no. So it's the other way around, which is what I think is so cool. They introduced the Inquisitors right away, and you're like, wow, on Tatooine, how is this working? Are they right after? They're already after Obi-Wan. What's going on? But no,
they're after Nori. Yeah.
It's a twist. They're after that other guy, right?
Yeah, but the sister, doesn't she knows of Obi-Wan already?
She does, but she doesn't know that Obi-Wan's there, right?
I thought she had some sort of. I thought it's just not explained, and she knows more than what's kind of.
It's unclear, I guess.
Yeah.
She has ambitions, right? She wants to find Obi-Wan because she knows that'll win her favor with Vader, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't get the impression that she thinks that Obi-Wan's on Tatooine, but she's hoping that the Jedi that they're searching for is Obi-Wan, even though everyone else thinks that he's gone.
I just think I've leaned towards the other way because it just feels like they could have killed that Jedi like so easily.
Right, they let him go.
Like they let him get away to kind of
like
they know he's going to search out Obi-Wan or something.
Right, he does like a little slide under a table. That's his big escape move.
Or when he uses the Force to like put down like the awning on the outside, but it's like so shit. It's like that would not block anyone.
It doesn't stop anyone. Yeah, especially someone has a lightsaber. Yes, here's the thing. I love the idea that there's another Jedi and Obi-Wan has to confront the fact that you have to think, it was his message that was like, don't return to the temple. It's a trap.
Mm-hmm.
Every Jedi heard that message, and it was Obi-Wan Kenobi telling them that. And for a Jedi like that, who was probably a youngling when Order 66 happened, to finally meet Obi-Wan, and he's just like denying, you know.
There's no mistake. I love that line too.
Yeah.
It's like, can't fool him.
And
then in that moment too, Obi-Wan is talking like in a different accent when he's saying that he's Ben. I noticed. And then when he goes up close to him and tells him to bury his lightsaber, it's his actual voice.
His more normal. Yeah. I didn't pick up on that, but that's really cool. What I thought was weird about that scene specifically is that everything else felt very Star Warsy in the way it was shot and edited. That scene specifically where he's talking with that guy in the desert is so weird because it's this like handheld. It's really dark, but it's this handheld camera, and it's super shaky. If you watch it again, it's like the camera's like all over the place, and I'm like, why are we doing it like this? Like, I don't feel like this is adding anything to this scene.
Well, it's very tense.
It's a minor gripe. Yeah, it's a minor gripe. It's not a big deal at all. Can we rewind to Order 66 again for a second? So
sure.
The Bad Batch starts with a version of Order 66. It shows Kanan from Rebels when he's a Padawan experiencing Order 66 for the first time, and then it also. But then if you back up even further, the final season of Clone Wars also showed us a new version of Order 66. This time with Ahsoka.
Mandalorian, right, with Grogu.
Exactly. Mandalorian also shows There you get that scene where Grogu's escaping, and you got the clones shooting down those
And
Jedi
there's
in the
a random
hallway.
Jedi that like helps them out, right? Or
Yes,
something like that.
yes, 100%. So they keep going back to this well, and you would think that by now I would be sick of it, but the answer is no, I'm not, because it's a well. It just keeps on giving. It's not run dry yet because it
Well,
has so much emotional stakes.
that specific event is well, and relevancy to just all of Star Wars. When we jump
Yes.
into Star Wars, the very first movie, the
Jedi are
third in
dead.
the timeline, yeah, we don't. It's not very typical of where you would start
Mm-hmm.
a sci-fi world. Essentially, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
the prequels would have been
Yeah,
where
we
you
start in the
start, and
middle of the story.
That's why George Lucas did it. He
Yeah,
wanted, you know what I mean? Like it's a very unique birth to this whole sci-fi world to start in that turmoil world where
100%.
like all hope is lost, but that's what it's all about is a new hope.
Yeah, and I went
Um,
like, and you're right because it's such an important moment that really happens very quickly in Revenge of the Sith, and
yeah,
the
but that movie is still more revered than the other two.
yes, it's the best of the prequels. It's
Mhm.
100%.
We understood that that was the last movie, to kind of showcase the turn and to show us Vader's birth.
Yeah, and it
Um,
mostly
but
drops
but
the
but
ball.
but but it was cool. Well, I guess, but we'll see how this show plays out because that movie ended up being like just an Obi-Wan Anakin type thing. It
Yes.
was it was that breakup of something that was supposed to be something special and
Well,
change the course
so
of everything.
you're right, and I think what makes it work much better for me now is the long like Clone Wars series that I can kind of pull from
Hmm.
emotionally to kind of help anchor what feels like a very rushed turn in Revenge of the Sith.
Hmm.
Um, in and of itself, it feels way too quick, right? You know, like the way he like starts choking Padme like immediately, like she's pregnant. What are you talking about? You know,
Yeah, but I
um,
think it was also expectations, right? Like George Lucas has stated, like it was 3 movies to show
his
his
descent, right? Yeah.
it was a descent, yeah. Like so, then yeah, people just it was like it's just you wanted to see more Vader, I guess, essentially, and like that's not necessarily what we got
Well,
in
you
that
get him.
movie.
So here's the thing. By the way, speaking of this Order 66 thing for just a little bit longer, it's really cool to
Because
it's
you're not
really
thinking
cool to see it. Right. First of all, it gives us another canon death for another Jedi. I don't know who. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it is a Jedi we've seen or we're aware of. Um, saving younglings, right, which is awesome. But I must remind you and the audience, Anakin still killed a bunch of younglings that day. Those
right.
those ones that we saw in this episode of Obi-Wan, they might have escaped some of them,
Hmm.
but the ones that Anakin murdered definitely did not. So I just to be clear, those are not the same ones.
Yeah, and by that
Yeah.
time, by that time though, he also destroyed a bunch of sand.
Yes, not just the men,
First,
but the
that was the
women,
first part of his descent. Yeah.
but the women and the
Because
children
I
too.
remember thinking that those events were really it was too late. Like no matter what conversations or whatever, like it was the deed is done.
Yeah,
You know
and
what I mean?
so I don't know if you, Jeremy, if you watch any of the the Screen Crush recaps of this kind of stuff. Like I watched the
Okay.
Obi-Wan one before we started the series just to kind of
Probably not a
catch
good
up and
idea, but okay.
no, like the one for that one like led up to is basically like a long
Oh,
recap
okay.
of Obi-Wan's story leading into Obi-Wan. And they bring up that moment where Anakin murders the Sand People. And the the biggest problem with the prequels was the Padme Anakin relationship. It's completely nonsensical. It's fucking stupid. It's very bad. And I like listen, I know there's prequel defenders. I love the prequels, but there's no reason Padme would like Anakin, never mind fall in love with him. He comes to her.
What?
He comes to her in that movie and tells her about how he murdered women and children, and she does not give a shit. She does not care. And like there's a whole like there is so much more, like that's just one element of it, but like there's so much more. Episode 2 is a complete disaster in terms of trying to explore their romantic relationship. The only good thing that comes out of it, in my opinion, other than Luke and Leia, obviously, is the Cross the Stars music, which is the
The love
theme,
theme.
their love theme. It's so fucking
Yeah, I
perfect.
agree. Like I agree that there just wasn't enough um time essentially to kind of
Yeah,
foster a care for one another. But I guess we understood where the path, like it was three movies, you know what I mean? Like this is the mother, this is
we
the
got to tell the
father.
story.
There,
Yeah.
but the story made sense in terms of they're all in, like he's protecting her. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
they're not spending time with anybody else. It's a dire situation. To me, I think it's fair game to be like it's believable that would happen. But I understand the hate, like the just how the scenes
Criticism.
came
Yeah.
across, and like it's like Padme's just like crying in one sequence. It's
Yeah.
like, but
It's
like she feels for him, but like she probably would just be like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like I get that type of scrutiny, but I don't really. It's whatever.
well, you're like it's like same. It's like I can see the movie and see the flaws there, but I can accept it as like I'm still entertained. Let's move on. I'd rather not repeat the I don't like sand moment again. And the thing is, I really hope Hayden gets to spread his wings here a little bit more, maybe do some of those um, flashbacks to the Clone Wars era, because we didn't get to see that. They skipped over it in the movie universe, and Hayden just had to jump into his kind of jaded version of himself that he is by episode 3. And it's much more earned if you watch the series. And I'm not even saying you have to, but there's a lot of really good stuff in there. I would recommend finding like a pared down, like these are the best episodes kind of thing, and just watching those. But um, Anakin, or Hayden specifically, I guess, he got a bad rap for his performance, right? And I know a lot of people are like Hayden stands, can't believe he's back. Me too. I'm really happy that he's back, but I would temper that with saying there was legit justification to be critical of his performance. You know, like it's like I understand he didn't have great dialogue, and there was like, but like he
You
was.
just can't admit to being wrong or something?
It's not that
Like,
I like. Am I? I
comes
don't think I
across.
am wrong. I like is what I'm saying. It's like
I know you want to like make sure everyone like, hey, listen, like, uh, like it was real. Like it's
it
I
happened. Like let's not rewrite history here.
well, the
Like
thing is that it's not rewriting history. It's there are narratives in play that just kind of they they get created, and then it's just there's no changing it. Okay, and
right.
there are also truths to those things, but it's how it came to be. And from what I've seen,
Yeah.
it's like it's the direction. It's where it's a lot
The
on
green
George and what he
screen.
wanted
Yeah.
him to do.
Yeah.
The green screen. You're
The
seeing a lot of
the
new you're seeing
funniest
a lot of
one.
new dialogue that isn't
Yes.
your
Yes.
character that you were curating.
Yes.
Essentially, you're now trying to be this legacy character from these other movies, and
Big
now you
shoes to
have to just
fill.
act as him, and you don't get the voice, you don't get the reverberation, you don't get the suit, you don't get
Yes.
all that stuff. You're just the red yellow eyes. You're a zombie, like you know what I mean, like you're
Yeah.
just evil. So I think
Yes.
just that inherently no one's gonna be able to pull that off and be like, "Oh,
Oh, no one.
bravo!" Like you know what I mean? Like so,
Right.
Hayden just unfortunately was a circumstance of this Darth Vader legacy character in coming from a hopeful, you are the chosen one, and then
Right.
switch, and
I
then
think
you
that's
don't get the
fair.
suit. You know what I mean?
I think that's
Yeah.
fair. He
Well, I
did get
think
to wear the
I would
suit
like that
briefly.
to be that's where we're at now. That's our understanding. He's
Yes.
back. How
Let's see what
awesome
can he
was
do.
that last
What's he gonna
shot
do? Yeah.
in the second episode? Yeah, like that's where we're
Better.
at.
I mean, Deborah Chow, I think, has shown that her ability to direct this series is like not in question at all to me. Like these first 2 episodes are so good, so unique
I am
in
glad that there was
between
two
them.
of them though too. Like
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
if the one just premiered, I think we there might be different conversations happening.
I yes,
Potentially.
because it would have been a lot of like people not having a hard time coming to grips with Obi-Wan's like he's basically still in denial of the whole thing
Yeah.
by the end of the first episode, even though it does have that really awesome ending where
It
that
just
one's
shows
like,
his lightsaber.
right, are you coming or what? Like which by the way is cliche, but the way it's all done totally like it's satisfying to see it. He's like,
Mhm.
okay, adventure, right? His face, again, Ewan just doing amazing work with just his face in this series so far, and he well,
With
because he
just
doesn't
his
have that.
face.
I mean, just his stupid face, and he just embodies this kind of this conflict that he has, and this like he doesn't want to leave Luke, right? What does it mean to leave Luke behind? I get the impression that like Jimmy Smits for whatever is like is like staying behind and watching out for him, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe Luke is just in Owen's hands and good luck. You know, I don't know how that's supposed to work, but I do like how well. Sorry, backing up. I like that the two episodes premiered at the same time. It feels like an event. The second episode feels so different from the first episode that it really has this much more driving nature to it that ends on this really compelling, like, wow, this Darth Vader moment is very cool. The Obi-Wan's face as he's like coming to grips with the fact that his best friend is still alive is worth the price of admission. Like it, I don't. If you've seen Jeremy, I don't know if you saw Nightmare Alley, the Guillermo del Toro nominated film, Best Picture nominated film from last year. It has this amazing final shot sequence of someone's face. That's like amazingly good. I'll probably remember it for the rest of my life. It's so cool. But this is like up there in terms of that same idea. It's not quite as good, but it's really impressive. Let's touch on Leia again a little bit. I love. We talked about this already. That the way that they could justify Obi-Wan stuff is bringing Leia into the story. It's cool. The stark nature you also mentioned between Tatooine and Alderaan is because we've never really seen Alderaan, which is also really cool, right? Like we saw it explode, but we've never really
I think we've
been
seen
there.
Revenge of the Sith for like a moment.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
for like a
And that's what
second.
we're thinking
Right?
too as Star Wars fans. It's like all this great music and like Leia's like this is her world.
Mm-hmm.
This is informing who she is. And
Yes.
it's like, but deep down as a Star Wars fan, you're like, this thing gets exploded in like a nanosecond or whatever. Like,
How
and
great
she's
is
forced
it?
to watch it.
Oh, you're right. It makes that moment so much
So
more
it's
tragic.
just like
Yeah.
yeah, we're just reminded of all these titular moments in Star Wars lore, and it's just so cool when it's happening when you're a fan. It's what you want essentially,
Well,
but while seeing new things.
well, think about like just and these are the same characters, right? You're dealing with Obi-Wan, and I think of that moment. So Leia watches her planet explode with Vader, and then meanwhile at that same time, Obi-Wan is with Luke, and he has that moment where he kind of like grabs his heart, and he's like, it's like a million voices or a billion voices all crying out in pain or whatever. It just being able to spend more time on Alderaan makes those moments that much more impactful.
Hmm.
It makes the original movies that are already amazing even better, which is, I think, really the best case scenario for anything like this, any kind of prequel, right?
Hmm.
Um, some would have argued originally that the original prequels made the original movies worse because the rendition of Vader was so not, they didn't love it, right?
Hmm.
I don't think that necessarily tracks now. But I just love that we get to spend more time on Alderaan. It just gives that so much more weight. How much did you love when he references Padme when talking to Leia?
I adored everything with Obi-Wan and Leia. I just even when he's like reaching out to her, like when she's uneasy and like
Mm-hmm.
he explains, "I'm here to save you," and like he like steps back into the light, and it's like this bluish light, and
Yes.
I'm just thinking about when she sends the message to him.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah.
Yeah, and then yeah, I just bravo basically.
Yeah.
I just
Chef's
don't like.
kiss.
It's just, I guess certain people, it's their expectations and what they want it to be, and if they want it to be more movie-like or
Are
more
people being
epic,
negative
more
about this? I haven't
cinematic.
seen that. I haven't
I
seen
don't
that.
know. I don't know. I just assume
Yeah. That's
that's
fair to
gonna
assume. There's
happen.
someone who's going to be pissed about it somewhere. Yeah, that's fair to assume that.
And it's like it just you're dead wrong because we know these movies, we know these characters, and we're seeing this in this new light that is just it's just awesome. There's
How
nothing wrong about it. Like what's wrong?
who wrote this? Who wrote this? It was written because like for me, there's even that scene where he's like buying her that little cloak or whatever, and she's like, I also want
Gloves
these
too.
gloves. Yeah, and then he's just like
And she's
she's
just
like
like flapping her fingers and like these little tiny gloves.
yeah, and he's like, okay, get the gloves too. And it's just like this moment because what I loved, and I tweeted this originally, which is that what this show does in these first 2 episodes is so brilliant is it shows us a version of Obi-Wan that we don't like. Someone who
Mhm.
he's denying his past, and he's not caring and loving like we know him to be, and
Mhm.
then you get these when Leia is introduced, you get these
When
moments
Nora
where
even says, "What happened to you?"
right, yeah,
before, which
yeah,
just sets the standard.
and you get this these moments, these brief moments where her light brings more joy to his life, and he's able to kind of step back into his old skin just for moments,
Mhm.
and it's brief, but it's powerful. Like I just think that whoever was writing this and had to write Leia's lines, that is a thankless job. But the dialogue is absolutely nailed, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, and then the
And
performance
then
just
her
takes it to the next level.
and then we get it's they double down on it with her little dialogue with the cousin or whatever, like her adoptive like family there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Where it's like she just has this brilliant line of how, he's the one who's actually scared,
yes.
which I thought was great writing and
Because
apropos to her
fear,
character.
yeah,
Um,
fear is such a crucial element of Star Wars, right? Understanding
mhm,
fear leads to the dark side, right?
mhm.
That's the whole thing. Um, so playing into that is also like it just so
And
good.
then
It's all
watching her
great.
just like run around and stuff and like just be ambitious and just like fearless. It's like we're looking at Leia right now, who's the other side of the coin, but she didn't get the training. She could have been a Jedi.
Eventually, well, she did eventually. We know that later in life
Yeah,
that she did train with Luke later, but when she was a kid,
yeah,
she was never exposed to that. She never got to like
yeah.
work on her powers.
Hmm.
Um,
So it's just so cool just thinking about all these
well,
things while watching them play around.
what's amazing is that like we get to see Luke from afar, right? When you get there's that cool scene where he's like on top of the little thing pretending to be in a pod racer or whatever, and you're like,
Hmm.
oh, just like his dad, cute,
Hmm.
right? But we know what young Luke is like. We've kind of seen, we know about his life, right? He wants to,
Yes, exactly.
and but we've only ever heard about Leia's life as a child, and we've
Yes,
never seen it.
exactly. Now we
And
are.
so, and it's like we cut to Alderaan, and I'm like, holy shit, because like I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't prepared for that,
No.
and I'm like, holy shit, we're gonna get to see Leia as a kid, and we've never seen that, and that is
And
it
then
doesn't.
and then on top of that, she has that little like droid of her own kind of thing.
Well, yeah, she has her
Like a
little
little
butterfly,
pocket
or
thing.
I don't know what it's called. It has a name, but it looks like a
Yeah.
ladybug essentially.
Yeah. But
But
it's like a
what?
cute like an R2D2 type character
Yes,
for her
but what is
at
also
that
really
age.
cool, Jeremy, and I don't know if you caught this, but both C-3PO and R2D2 make appearances in that
Yes, I
first
did,
episode,
yeah.
and it's like we're so used to them getting like
Prominent
in
role.
Rogue One they get like a little like cameo, right, where they're like, "Well, I just never know where does everyone keep going," or whatever he says in that. That was a terrible R2 impression, but or sorry, 3PO,
C3PO.
yeah, but like they're just in the background. You see R2D2 like serving drinks, and then you have like C3PO talking with like another protocol droid, and they're just there. And I like the restraint to not be like this.
Mhm.
Oh look, hey, it's C3PO and R2D2. We don't have to do that, and I appreciate the restraint here. This show, I think, so far, its best quality is its restraint. It's not indulging in the things that you could so easily indulge in, right?
Yeah, it
Lightsaber
will.
fight, or
It will. It's just being patient with it.
which is great. That's
Yeah.
that's that's the ride. That's why we go week to week with these types of shows. You know,
Well, now you're
that's
gonna go week to week because yeah, you will get the Qui-Gon, you know what I mean, type thing. Like that's gonna
I hope
happen.
so.
Well, it
Yeah.
will. They basically said it's gonna happen. Like he
Well,
they
and like
you
I'd also love a flashback. I would also love to see something like him dealing with Cody. Like
mm,
what's the fallout there? We saw him having to interact briefly with a clone, but it wasn't Cody. That was his buddy. right? There's room to explore there. Um, there's just, and also I gotta say, I don't know if it's just because there's more movie stars in this. You know, we got Jimmy Smits, we got Ewan McGregor, we've got um, name Camille Nanjiani, Joel Edgerton, right? It feels, Hayden Christensen's back. It feels bigger. It to me, it looks a lot bigger and it more expensive. I don't know if it is, but it feels much more like you could slot this in between the movies and it wouldn't feel like a TV show. It would feel like a movie. Did you get that impression, or does it still feel like a little bit smaller scale to you?
Um, I think it's just a good mixture. But there's certain things that just make it feel smaller scale. I don't know if that's the volume
Right.
effects or whatever
I think
that
it
just
is.
don't
The volume
translate.
does make it
Because
things feel
sometimes it's like
smaller.
when you're not thinking about it, it's like pretty awesome. But then when you notice it, it's kind of shitty.
Yeah, it doesn't like that's what's great about this series so far. It hasn't had as many as those moments as like
Yes, yeah.
you know,
Mandalorian or something.
Mandalorian or Boba Fett did, right?
Yeah.
And it feels grander and broader. Like you can have these bigger sets and these bigger, larger spaces. But there's that first shot of Obi-Wan at that meat packing plant, which I think is a dead crate dragon that they're just like chopping up the meat for. I think that's what it is. It's a really kind of crappy CG establishing shot, and I was like, I feel like they could do better than that. I feel there's very few moments where that feels like that. Like the second episode where they go to that city and it's like all neon feels way
Oh
much
yeah.
bigger. I think that's good. But overall, I think they understood that this show Obi-Wan required a little bit more. It required them making a bit more grandeur, and I appreciate that. I think it'll probably continue to kind of grow as we go. What did you think about Camille Nanjiani appearing here?
Uh, yeah. Like I just felt like okay, he's it's kind of like he always does comedic relief, I guess,
Yeah,
and it is what it is, and I appreciate. Like I thought it was. He still had like kind of like an endearing kind of end
yeah,
to his role there. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't all that bad. Like he just like, kind of like a fun side character in Star
yeah.
Wars.
And like, it's not even his fault that like his secret was like like it was stolen from his head essentially. So it's like
Right. Yeah.
you can kind
Exactly.
of release. Yeah. You
Yeah.
think?
But Obi-Wan's obviously gonna think that way. But I guess we'll revisit it or
Well, I don't.
something.
You think we'll see her? You think we'll see him again? I feel like that's it. Like I don't think we'll return to this place.
Just one
That's my.
episode.
I
What about
think
the Grand
so.
Inquisitor on IMDb? It says 6 episodes or 5 episodes,
I
but
think that's to
isn't it
throw us
only?
off, man. I think there's going to be another Grand Inquisitor, and
But why would you ruin that actor? That actor is
well,
so
because
good.
I'll tell you why. Because you know who plays the other Grand Inquisitor in the other show?
Who's that?
Jason Isaacs.
Yeah,
So,
he's a voice actor. Yeah.
well, he's not just a voice actor. He was also a captain on
Oh,
Star Trek and
no,
stuff.
I meant like for the show for the
Yeah, he was the
animated
voice
series.
exactly.
Yeah.
So what I'm
So
saying
you're
is,
saying he'll come back as a live Grand
what would
Inquisitor?
it's very possible. And not
That'd be
only that,
crazy.
I think it would be absolutely insane for that. Like the coolest fucking troll job by Lucasfilm would be to kill off this guy that everyone hated in the second episode, and then bring in the guy that everyone wanted to fill in the shoes of the same role. Essentially, it's fucking brilliant if that's what they do, which it's unclear. It's more likely that they want to remove the Grand Inquisitor from the story so that you can have Vader more directly involved with the Inquisitors, which is probably what's going to happen. Yeah, I didn't mind Camille Nanjiani. It's a fun kind of like little thing that he was doing, and I liked how Obi-Wan reacted to it. He was like he understood
Hmm.
kind of the general harmlessness of it, right? But but also felt insulted, I think, a little bit, and kind of called him on his bullshit, like So I appreciated that, but he still he feels too much like Camille Nanjiani to fit into the world to me. That it pulls me out a little bit. That's my one gripe with that. Um, is there anything else you'd want to say? I feel like there's a lot of things to touch on, but do you have anything else you wanted to touch on that something
Oh,
that really stood out
I
to you?
think I think I mentioned all my thoughts.
Okay. I'm just gonna see if just see if that other Jedi is revealed. I don't think so. Well, and by the way, here's something that's also interesting: a possibility for the future of this series or this miniseries. The Jedi Fallen Order, right? The video game. They announced the sequel, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, I think it's called, and they do a 5-year time jump in that story, and that 5-year time jump just happens to put it right in line with Obi-Wan Kenobi and the show that's going on right now. So it's possible that you'll get a crossover there. Again, that's what the world is right now. It's all about crossovers. I'm just saying, one that you could look out for is the character that plays, I don't even remember his name. He played the Joker on Gotham, redheaded kid. He could make an appearance because they designed his character model after the actor in the game. So if he came into the live action, he would just look exactly like he came out of the game. So that's very possible because there is still more Jedi alive right now, but still not that many, right? So, we've already met another one.
Star Killer.
He is not canon anymore. But I mean, they might. I mean, who knows? Anything can happen, right? They made Thrawn canon, so why not Star Killer? Although the problem with Star Killer is he's just like crazy. He's too powerful. He's like way overpowered to some degree. So if you reintroduce him, you'd probably have to like rejigger things a little bit to make it make more sense. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. There's no anything can happen in Star Wars. It's like Anyway, I guess final thoughts here about these first 2 episodes. Absolutely love them. It's a gluttony of riches, Jeremy, because we just got treated to Maverick, Top Gun Maverick, which is an awesome movie. Totally exceeds expectations. And the only other thing that I had this much, I was this invested in this kind of if I couldn't check my expectations at the door for Top Gun, I was going to have a really hard time checking my expectations at the door for Obi-Wan. And I didn't have to, because so far, 2 episodes in, it's been exactly what I was hoping it would be. And in fact, better, because it justified its existence in the most fucking brilliant way possible. So, yeah, no notes. I can't wait to see what comes next. How many episodes are there in this series? There's 6.
There's like 6.
6 episodes. So we're
4 more.
4 weeks away from the finale. Strap
4
in.
Weeks of nonstop.
Strap in. Yeah. Jeremy was not wrong when he said that this is where the fun begins. Not wrong. That's true. That is true. Well, hey, Jeremy, you're of course welcome to join our small screen Star Wars stuff. At any point, we'll let you know. As Rachel gets back, it would be great to talk about all this stuff together. So look for more small screen Star Wars soon. We're going to be, of course, unpacking these episodes beat by beat, talking about all the cool references. I know we've missed some. There's already others that I feel like we didn't even touch on the scene where really Jimmy Smits and Obi-Wan are having this heart to heart. So cool. But there's lots to still unpack, and there's going to be even more. And then when Vader gets involved, it's a whole other ball game. So stay tuned. We're going to be covering it. Small screen Star Wars. Find it on your podcast catcher of choice. We also record these live. This is being recorded live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter at Tower Babblecast on Twitter. Similar stuff just search Tower Babble Podcast on any of those places and you'll find us. Subscribe to get notifications when we go live. Be a part of the conversation. It's fun to break this all down. We're in the golden age of Star Wars right now, and to some degree. I really feel like the fandom is healing, Jeremy, I think a lot, which is nice. It's nice to see. So I am so excited to just sink my teeth into whatever that meat is that Obi-Wan is cutting up in this first episode, and just dive into this. week after week, and then unpack it all, and then talk about. We still have to talk about all the other stuff that came out. You haven't seen the Andor trailer yet, but you have to see that. We have to talk about more about this skeleton crew show. What does that even mean? Is it who knows? There's the Tales of the Jedi stuff. There's the video game stuff we touched on. There's so many things because of Celebration, and Rachel's going to come back, and we're going to unpack it all with her. It's super exciting. So please be excited. And we will talk to you again next week. May the Force be with you.
Am I supposed to say and also with you?